Numbers can be hard to comprehend after a while. Like, it's easy enough to visualize a room filled with 10 people. But when that number grows larger, it can get a little tougher. Do you really have a sense of what 500 people looks like? 1,000? After a massive 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the region, the death toll started out high.
We begin this morning in Turkey and Syria, where more than 1,500 people are now reported dead.
But with each passing day, it just got higher.
The death toll at last count has risen to 7,200 people.
And higher.
The death toll is soaring to more than 15,000 people.
And higher.
Right now, over 20,000 deaths have been confirmed in the earthquake-ravaged region.
This is one of the deadliest earthquake disasters anywhere on planet Earth in more than a decade. And no doubt the death toll will keep rising. But even for those who managed to survive, the pain is just beginning. My guest this week is CNN International anchor Becky Anderson. She got rare access to one of the many relief operations that rushed into the quake zone. We talk about what it looks like there on the ground, where survivors go from here, and how politics are complicating relief efforts, especially in Syria. From CNN, this is One Thing. I'm David Ryan. So, Becky, you're based in Abu Dhabi, but you made your way to the quake zone in Turkey right after we learned about this. How did you get there?
Well, we first got reports around 6 a.m. local time here in Abu Dhabi on Monday morning. Look, Turkey's no stranger to earthquakes. The location on two major fault lines regularly produces fairly regular tremors. But we very quickly realized the fastest route into disaster zones is often with international emergency aid flights who generally work with the local government. So I started working the phones to my contacts to get some sense of what our options were. And quite quickly here, authorities announced what they called Operation Gallant Night to send in search and rescue personnel and equipment. They're also taking in a field hospital and emergency supplies. So by early evening, we had permission to fly in on one of the first C-17 aircraft that the Emiratis were using to ferry supplies. So we got ourselves to the airport as a team and got on board that C-17. Any personnel or passengers strap into what are very, very narrow seats, which run alongside the plane. It is cold, it is noisy, and it is extremely uncomfortable, but it is one of the only ways, if not the only way, to get into the epicenter of a disaster.
Yeah, start strapping in.
We were headed for Adana in southern Turkey, but as we approached Adana, the pilot was instructed by Turkish authorities that there was no capacity for the equipment that the flight was carrying.
And so what did you see on the ground?
Well, the roads on the way into the city were okay. They weren't destroyed. They were fine, but they were strewn with parked cars full of people who had slept in their cars. They had just piled their families into cars and just driven away from the shaking. As we drove into the city, though, it was very clear that many, many people didn't have that luxury.
It's clear there is nothing left of this building. I mean, this was a 7-story building. You can see
what we found in the suburb of Ibrahimili in western Gaziantep was just absolutely horrifying and heartbreaking. In one 150-yard strip where we pulled up, there were 6 buildings which had either partially or wholly collapsed. So in the first building, we were told that there were 24 people inside the building who hadn't been able to escape.
Are they carrying someone out there? It's hard to tell.
It looks as if they may be.
While we were there, 4 people were rescued, including a little girl of 3 years old, a little boy of 7, and 2 adults. They came out literally just as we were arriving, but there were still 20 people in that building that were unaccounted for. And as the hours went past, that search and rescue operation was started and it was stopped. It was started again and it was stopped because there were real fears that the entire building that still existed would collapse.
How does a rescue work in a situation like this with just mounds of rubble and chaos everywhere? Like, how do they actually approach that?
The search and rescue effort it's chilling to watch. The teams and the volunteers are digging with drills and spades and with their bare hands. And every so often, one rescuer will sort of call out loud. He'll scream for silence.
From here, and I'm just going to go quiet for a moment because they are calling for quiet because this is an extraction. I'm just going to let you.
And generators and heavy machinery is then switched off and everyone goes completely quiet. So I'm talking about absolute silence. And if you consider there are hundreds of people around many of these sites, but it goes completely silent.
Max, what I'm hearing is that there is somebody alive under the rubble. Let's just put that generator back on in order to provide some support for the machinery here.
They turn the generators back on and then they start digging again. And it's clear at that point that they're satisfied that they've heard something. They've got some sign of life to indicate that they should renew their efforts.
Search and rescue gentlemen who are now just climbing up to the right-hand side of this collapsed building.
And on the site that we were on, that happened for 70 hours.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty sure that there were members of those teams who hadn't stopped. They were switching in and out, but I know that there were members of that search and rescue team and volunteers who didn't stop. They didn't sleep. They were on that site for 70 hours.
Wow.
Oh, they're clapping. What? They're clapping.
And at the end of that process, one family, one father and two sons, were pulled out alive.
It's like whatever it takes, even if it's just one or two people,
Whatever
they're
it takes.
going to make it work.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Just tell me, first of all, who is Mustafa?
Well,
how do you know him?
Well, he's one of my friends, and actually, the night before we were together, we went to cinema, and everything was normal. And after 2 hours, we just separated, and at that night, the earthquake hit so bad. Actually, I was one of the survivors, and well, it was horrible, horrible.
We spoke to a guy called Alp during the time that we were broadcasting. Alp's friend Mustafa was buried with his father, his brother, and his mother.
You haven't heard from Mustafa since
Yes,
then?
actually, and since then we're here, we're waiting to hear anything from him.
As the time went on, and Alp was just telling us that he was terribly concerned that even if they'd survived underneath this rubble, he was worried that they would be killed by hypothermia, that they would suffer hypothermia because it was bitterly cold.
I can't believe that he can make it, but I always have my hope. Well, it's hard to talk. We're just praying.
And I have to say, miraculously, more than 70 hours after the initial quake, Mustafa, his brother, and his father were pulled out alive. Their mother, sadly, didn't make it, and at least 10 others are still unaccounted for under that building as of yet, and it's very unlikely that anybody more will be pulled out alive.
For the people who did manage to make it out alive, but no longer have a home to live in, what are the most urgent needs right now for the survivors? Where do they go? And, are supplies even able to make it in to these areas, especially I'm thinking about across the border in Syria?
Yeah, this is a really good question. Let's start with Turkey.
On the first day, we experienced some issues. But then on the second day and today, the situation has been taken under control.
The Turkish president has admitted what he describes as his government's shortcomings in response to this massive quake. But he does insist that the situation is now under control. He's been visiting the quake-affected areas. He's been consoling victims, and he's been pledging to rebuild thousands of flattened homes. But that's not going to happen overnight. What he has ordered is that hotels in Mediterranean resorts open for people who are homeless. But again, not everybody is going to be able to make it anywhere close to those Mediterranean resorts. So at the moment, it's really, really unclear what is going to happen to those who are homeless. The president has declared a 3-month state of emergency in the 10 hardest hit provinces in the south. These are provinces that are traditionally supporters of the president and his AK party. And let's be quite clear, there is an election in Turkey mid-May, or certainly that is what it's scheduled for. And how this disaster is going to affect his chances of extending his rule into a third decade is really difficult to assess at the moment. And there are those who say, look, this is a region which is not unfamiliar to earthquakes. So, there are those who say, what more could the government have done? But certainly it is party to an awful lot of criticism at this point.
Right. And so what about Syria then? What about that particular situation makes this complicated when it comes to aid and the response, even though it's just right across the border?
The big worry here is for the Syrian victims of this earthquake. I've heard one expert describing them as having become hostages of the politics that have divided Syria for over a decade. I've personally heard accounts of people in Aleppo and in Idlib in the northwest of Syria who have no heating, no electricity, no fuel, no water, towns and villages flattened. Look, let's be quite clear about this. By some accounts, there are 15 million Syrians already in need of humanitarian assistance before this earthquake.
Right, like this was already bad.
Absolutely, absolutely. Civilian infrastructure, basic services are extremely poor, if they exist at all. And 4 million of those Syrians are in rebel-held areas of northwest Syria, which are worst hit by this quake, and indeed in areas that are government-controlled. Most of the humanitarian aid that gets into northwest Syria goes in through one UN-mandated crossing point, and that is with Turkey. And that is right in the heart of the area worst hit by this earthquake. What stocks the World Food Programme says they have are being exhausted very, very quickly. And to replenish them, they say they need access. Apart from that one UN-mandated crossing, everything else, as we understand it, is going in through Damascus. But it's not clear that relief will be sent directly onto the people who need it most. And that is the problem.
A rescue worker sings to little Mina, talks and shares stories with her.
I think by now our listeners may have seen an image of a little girl in Syria. She's 7 years old and she's caught underneath a piece of cement, trapped underneath some cement. She's just able to squeeze herself under this block, and she's with her little brother, who's a baby.
Be careful in Laheke.
And that image struck me. The rescuers were talking to this little girl, and she said, "I'm stuck, and do what you can. I'll do anything for you." She said, "I'll come work for you." And she put her head on her baby brother's hair and she just stroked him. That's all she could do. She was trapped. Look, I'm the mother of 2 kids who are quite young. One's nearly 3 and one's less than a year old. And this story is not about me, but it's difficult to see an image like that without feeling it cut to the quick as a mum. It's not easy when you see a little girl who looks very like your own daughter, talking to rescuers, and you just don't know whether that little girl is going to make it. Well, I have to say they did make it.
Mina is eventually pulled out safely. Her family has also survived.
But so many other little girls and boys didn't make it. The WHO have said that 23 million people are affected by this earthquake. Thousands of them will be children, they say. And the likelihood is that thousands of kids will have lost their lives. So we've got to do whatever it takes to ensure that, as many survive this as possible.
Pain all around. Well, Becky, thanks so much for the reporting. Really appreciate it.
Tonight, an Outfront exclusive. New videos showing the failing health of the former Georgian president and top Putin critic, Mikhail Saakashvili. I want to warn viewers that it's disturbing to look at this. The video shows what Saakashvili's legal team says is one of the many seizures that he has suffered in a Georgian prison. So you can see this from the surveillance camera. Like I said, it's pretty hard to look at that. Then here he is in another video. You'll see Saakashvili there in pain, falling out of his bed. Then nurses in that facility rush in. He literally sort of disappears before our eyes in that video. And then on the left, I'll show you something else. Saakashvili this week appearing in a court hearing. It was virtual, just through the screen. You can see his ribs and how thin he is. And that's on the other side of the screen how he looked in 2020, just before he was arrested. His lawyers say he's lost about 100 pounds. They've repeated abuse, and they have done DNA tests that they say show that he's been poisoned with mercury and arsenic. Those DNA tests have been done by doctors in the United States. The differences in these two pictures are very jarring and disturbing. It's important to see them, though, because this is happening right now, right? This is a person who right now, tonight, is going through this. And it comes just days after the Ukrainian President Zelensky said that Saakashvili is being slowly killed. He urged the world to come together to secure his release. Saakashvili's lawyers say this all comes back to one man and one man alone, and that man is Vladimir Putin. They say Saakashvili was arrested and convicted on trumped-up charges of abuse of power, and that the pro-Putin Georgian government is doing Putin's bidding. Saakashvili, of course, was a loud champion for Georgia on the world stage and fought against Putin when Putin invaded Georgia, spent the years warning the world about him, including right here on the show.
He likes people who can really manipulate and intimidate.
Play him.
And the only thing that America cannot afford to show the Russians that America is weak, because the only thing Putin appreciates, everybody knows that, is sheer force.
Well, maybe then not everybody knew that. Now there's new appreciation for that. Out front now, Massimo D'Angelo, one of Saakashvili's lawyers. So, Massimo, the seizures that we saw in that new video, it's disturbing, but you say they're becoming more and more frequent. What do doctors think is causing this, and how worried are they?
They're extremely concerned. I mean, as you can see in that progression of photographs and video that you just showed, he is radically and rapidly declining in health. You can see him going through seizures. He's got brain damage. He's got a reduction of white matter in his prefrontal cortex.
And you were able to establish that through testing?
Yes. And actually in some of the videos you'll see, I was there with our expert neurologist, Dr. Lacan, who's a Congressional Medal of Honor award winner. And we actually took hair samples and nail samples and body tissue and sent them back to labs here for testing, which concluded that he had heavy metals throughout his system, including mercury and arsenic. Mercury and arsenic,
which I know you're saying could be and slowly being put into his system in some way while he's in prison. So when we look at how he was now compared to when he was arrested, I mean, that's incredibly jarring. But I want to show just that's before, right, and now. But even now, compared to late December, that's when you and I last were together talking about him. That's been 7 weeks. How much has changed in just those 7 weeks?
A lot. He is continuing the rapid decline. Again, you can see the extreme loss of weight that's continuing. In fact, the Polish prime minister came out today. We have also 27 European countries that came out in solidarity seeking his release. Poland will take him. France will take him. The U.S. will take him. Obviously, President Zelensky, you saw him with those photographs. Ukraine will take him for medical treatment. He needs to be moved immediately and go through a detoxification process. And even then, our neurologist doesn't even know if his current brain damage will ever be reversed.
Right, just to be clear, because you are talking about brain damage and a change in the white matter. So you're saying some of this may not be reversible.
Correct.
So you have detailed medical analysis, which you say, a Congressional Medal of Honor, U.S. Recipient, administered, showing mercury and arsenic levels. You say you've got no doubt he's been poisoned. Christo Grozev obviously was a lead investigator into the poisoning of Alexei Navalny for Bellingcat, says he's now investigating this at Saakashvili's request. Do you have any doubt that this investigation leads back to Moscow, to Putin?
We have no doubt at all. I mean, this is a story about good versus evil, about the police state versus the free state. Remember, Saakashvili is the father of democracy in that region. He brought democracy there. There was a nonviolent shift in power for the first time ever in the South Caucasus region when he gave power to the current ruling party, the Georgian Dream, who is led by the architect, really, is Bidzina Ivanishvili, who is an oligarch, and clearly a Putin proxy. So that is what we're dealing with here, and we need the assistance of the United States and its allies to come in and suspend aid. Remember, the U.S. is giving tens of millions of dollars of aid
to Georgia
to support democratic programs, to support the court system, and there's clearly a backsliding of democracy, and we as the United States need to stand up and be the protector and champion of democracy.
So the U.S. ambassador to Georgia spoke out about Saakashvili's condition, saying, "We will continue to implore the government to take the necessary steps to prevent the situation from escalating further and to provide Saakashvili with the type of treatment he needs." Is that enough?
I don't think it's enough. Clearly, the United States and the ambassador is closely looking at the situation, but we need a real effort here. The suspension of aid, the imposition of sanctions, visa restrictions. These are the avenues that we need to use in order to expedite his release.
All right, Massimo, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And next, an in-depth look at the controversial world of NFTs, crypto assets hyped by many celebrities. But at least one major company selling NFTs is facing growing legal problems. So on the back of crypto, some might be nervous. Could this boom go bust?
Don't act like you forgot. Better have my money. Better have my money.
Rihanna's 2015 hit single back in the news again, not only because Rihanna will headline Sunday's Super Bowl halftime show, but because the song is now being offered as an NFT. NFT stands for non-fungible token, a digital asset that has exploded in popularity in recent years. And those who bought the Rihanna NFTs will receive a fraction of that song's streaming royalties. But what exactly are NFTs? You know, we hear about them so much lately. And really, is this a made-up thing? Is this a bubble that's about to burst? Ellie Reeve has this out-front investigation.
NFTs, typically digital art bought and sold with cryptocurrency, really started going mainstream after these cartoon ape pictures had their moment on late-night TV.
We're part of the same community. We're both apes.
I love it.
This is my ape.
Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's become the face of NFTs, and I think maybe not in a good way.
Why is this NFT worth almost $200,000?
The Bored Ape Yacht Club, a collection of 10,000 ape images, became some of the most prominent NFTs. And they were everywhere. Streetwear, billboards, a signature event called Ape Fest. They had an air of mystery. The founders of the company were initially anonymous.
I'd walk around the crowd, no one knew that, I'd helped create this whole thing.
Celebs scooped them up and tweeted about it.
Justin Bieber bought one. Well, his was 1.2 million.
They were the first NFT that got this much market capitalization and attention.
And then crypto crashed, and the NFT market was hit even harder. Now the apes have plummeted in value, and the celebrities that promoted them are facing a lawsuit. So is the company that created them, Yuga Labs. Yuga is also facing a potential SEC violation, all while being dogged by allegations of racially offensive imagery, which the company denies.
Remember that time I bought that Bored Ape for $750,000 and now it's worth a gift certificate to Walmart? What the happened?
What did happen? Yuga declined to sit down with CNN for an on-camera, on-the-record interview.
Right out, boys.
Since the collapse of FTX, the crypto industry has taken on an Emperor Has No Clothes vibe.
You get a haircut?
The enormous valuations, the awkward celebrity ads.
I'm getting into crypto.
And the big promises about the future now all look a bit absurd. While Bored Ape Yacht Club was not the biggest phenomenon in crypto, it embodied all of those things.
You didn't buy it for the artistic value of it.
No, it's a monkey, man. Nobody buys a monkey for, $300,000.
You know, it's not like someone hand drew all these Bored Apes. They were just sort of compiled by computers. It's not that unique. The unique part of it is the speculative bubble.
A lot of people bought NFTs gambling they could sell them for more to someone else. And celebrity hype helped bring in new buyers.
You need this sort of endless supply of greater fools to be putting money into crypto in order for the crypto prices to continue to go up.
After Hollywood agent Guy Oseary teamed up with Yuga in 2021, celebrities started talking about the apes. The price soared. Yuga made a commission every time an ape was sold. In March 2022, a $450 million venture capital investment gave Yuga a valuation of $4 billion.
You know, I'm an investor, I'm a fan, Guy Oseary's my guy.
How many apes do you have?
7.
Now, a class action lawsuit claims those celebrities were secretly paid to tout the apes and got them for free through a crypto payments firm called MoonPay, which some invested in.
I just got my first NFT.
Oh, you did? What was it?
Through MoonPay.
Okay.
MoonPay.
The lawsuit, filed in December, calls this a vast scheme to misleadingly promote and sell the Yuga financial products and inflate their prices. It names Yuga, MoonPay, Oseary, Fallon, Hilton, Bieber, Snoop Dogg, Madonna, Post Malone, and other defendants. The celebrities did not respond to requests for comment. Oseary says both he and his client Madonna paid full price for their apes. Yuga says these claims are without merit. In a Twitter Spaces chat last year, celebrity jeweler Ben Baller said he rejected a deal to promote the apes.
Not once, not twice, 3 times I've been offered a Bored Ape through MoonPay.
They wanted you to not disclose that they had purchased the ape for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
You wanted to seem like you bought it for yourself
Yeah,
because you liked it.
Which you know what the craziest thing about that is that a lot of celebrities who are going into this, they're probably just stoked to get the ape, and they don't even realize a lot of them probably don't consult their legal and shit like that beforehand. Yeah.
A MoonPay spokesman denies Baller's claim and says the company looks forward to the lawsuit being dismissed. Beyond questions about who bought their NFTs and why, there's also the question of what the Bored Apes represent. Some show apes in so-called hip-hop clothes, a pimp coat, a gold grill, a bone necklace, a prison jumpsuit. Record executive and crypto enthusiast Dame Dash pointed out that monkeys are an old racist trope.
If you were a racist, like, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get black people to love monkeys so much that they gonna buy them, and they're gonna go to something called an ape fest, and they're gonna like it. Wouldn't that sound funny?
It would be.
No, that's happening.
More accusations circulated online, like in a video viewed over 1 million times, that Yuga had intentionally referenced memes from racist forums on the troll site 4chan.
There is a video going around on the YouTube showing how Bored Ape is actually racist. And actually, as I look at the sketches of Bored Ape, they are kind of racist.
These claims include that there's a resemblance between some of the apes and Pepe the Frog memes, an infamous 4chan symbol. These accusations are at issue in another lawsuit. Artist Ryder Ripps says he thought the apes were racist and made copycat NFTs to protest them. Yuga sued for trademark infringement. A Yuga spokesperson said the company strongly condemns the spread of hate in any form and that these suggestions are the incoherent ramblings of conspiracy theorists. Frederick Brennan took an interest in these claims because he used to run a similar troll site, 8chan, then tried to have it taken down after it became a hub of extremist violence.
Is it possible that 4chan memes have so pervaded the culture that they didn't really know what they were trafficking in?
I don't think so, because there's too many of these.
Other apes that critics say look like a Pepe meme are wearing a sushi chef headband that actually says kamikaze.
You know, kamikaze is actually used as a slur against Japanese people. I speak Japanese, so that was the one that was most shocking.
I doubt that they were a massive alt-right troll campaign. I do think it's likely that the creators of the project basically included some nods to 4chan. The thing is, crypto has adopted a lot of the same sort of dog whistles as other racist parts of the internet.
I was hoping in my eternal optimism that people would become a lot more skeptical of tech bros, and that liberal so-called celebrities in Hollywood would, view these people with suspicion. Apparently not.
It's incredible. Ellie, I want to watch that 3 more times. It's just, I kind of got to get my head around just the psychology of people wanting to acquire things for no reason other than other people have them. And then it's not even a thing. This is just one of many crypto companies under scrutiny, though, right now.
That's right. There are several crypto companies this week who've announced they're scaling back some of their services because of much more intense regulatory scrutiny. And as for Yuga, one of its co-founders, Wiley Arano, this week published a 24-page letter saying why he was stepping back from the company and addressing these widespread rumors that the company and its products are connected to the alt-right. Arano said that he would refute these rumors under oath.
Pretty amazing, though. Is it amazing just to imagine that people wanted to buy this stuff for just because?
Well, there's a catchphrase in crypto, number go up, and that's what mattered. People were making money and they didn't ask questions.
Wow, it's just incredible. Number go up. I like that. See, now I've learned that. Number go up. As long as it goes up, who cares? I guess that was their attitude, and now here we are. All right, Ellie, thank you so much, and I hope everyone will watch that amazing piece again. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us. CNN Tonight with Allison Camerata is next.